Hi everyone. I'm squeezing in some time between all of my Inkvent videos during the month of December to do another bookish video, which I've kind of been neglecting the booktube and authortube side of my channel with all the the Inkvent fun going on during December and other pen videos, but I have not, forgotten the main focus of my channel is books and writing. And so these are going to be it's a pile of possibilities slash TBR for most of my recent library books. Some of them I've already decided to kind of DNF, so I won't be showing them in this video. But anyway, here's at the top of the pile. I thought this was cute. It's a new book, How Do You Like Your Mammoth? I love food. That's one of the top 5 compliments I've gotten on my writing. So many people over lots of years, they just love my, food and eating scenes. And I love Food Network. Food is right up my alley. 12,000 years of culinary history in 50 bite-sized essays by Ute Seeburg, forward by Max Miller, and you see the types of food and history on the back. Why did a 16th century cookbook author argue that beavers should be considered fish? Why did a king have to order his subjects to eat potatoes? What food did ancient Egyptians think worthy of accompanying pharaohs into the afterlife? How could canned meat have doomed the 1845 Franklin expedition? And that's a really cute, frontispiece is the name for that, just flipping through afternoon tea, injera, grape bread and baked onions in Etruria, lamb stew with barley cakes in Babylonia circa 1730 BC. I obviously wouldn't be eating that because I'm a vegetarian. Grilled mammoth, North America, circa 10,000 BCE, hunger strike, Russian Empire, vegetable pie, United Kingdom, nigiri, sushi, Japan, fish and chips, roast swan, curry, lotus blossom carved from a watermelon, hot pot, Chinese Empire, turnip jam, student meals, pastrami, sandwich, gladiator stew, cure-all soup, just lots of fun stuff about food and such like that. And this was also right up my alley. They had a display on medical related books. I love medical history, particularly Macabre medical history. I haven't watched this show in years. I don't know if it's still on, but I would love to catch up again. I love untold stories of the ER. There are so many fascinating and morbid, very memorable stories on that show. And I just love reading about weird medical history. I've done book reviews of a couple of other books, nonfiction books about this subject on my channel. Maybe I'll put some links to them at the end so you guys can check them out. This is Get Well Soon, History's Worst Plagues and the Heroes Who Fought Them by Jennifer Wright. And I absolutely loved her dedication. Oh, and it looks like a mosquito, cause of malaria, millions of deaths throughout human history. Her dedication is for Mom and Dad. Would it kill you to go to the doctor now and then? And she profiles diseases including bubonic plague, smallpox. Thank God that was eradicated shortly before I was born, particularly because my eczema, which is attacking my hands in the winter weather currently. When you have eczema, that's a legitimate medical contraindication against the smallpox vaccination. So I really hope to God it never ever escapes from the 2 labs it's in, because that I would have to rely on herd immunity, but that's a whole other topic. And it also includes tuberculosis. And she has fun subtitles for her chapters. For example, tuberculosis is never glamorized ill health. People used to think that was a romantic disease for lovers. If you want to demonstrate conventional wisdom is wrong, be ready to prove your theory thoroughly. This is for cholera. Spread the word that vaccines are the best. That's totally true. That's for smallpox. For dancing plague, try being nice instead of burning people as witches. Censorship kills. Spanish flu. Understand that when communities, leaders, and scientists work together, we can save the world. Of polio. If you are diseased, don't deliberately infect other people. Typhoid. Know that one good person can make a difference and that you can be that person. Leprosy, and just a couple of other diseases. I love medical history. I'm probably going to have a lot of fun reading this book, and I would absolutely love someday to go to a bunch of as many as possible museums specializing in macabre medical history, like the Mutter Museum in Philadelphia and the Kunstkamera in St. Petersburg, Russia. Of course, after Tsar Vladimir is deposed and it's safe to go to Russia. I would not feel safe there. This is one I requested from Interlibrary Loan. It's not the most like updated version, but it's not the original version she mentions, or they mention in the, I'm sorry if I'm speaking too fast, in the flyleaf or whatever. It's updated to include some new information from 1970. Fawn, Brodie, she was actually excommunicated from the morgue for writing this biography because it actually takes an honest look at their precious prophet, Joe Smith. If you've seen my videos about Beatrice Sparks, you know I do not have a very high opinion of Mormonism or Joe Smith at all, but that's kind of off topic for this. But anyway, this book is one of the things, it's my understanding that that's what got her excommunicated from the morgue, because she was, reporting stuff honestly. This is like established historical fact. You can't dance around it. And church leaders have since like confirmed things like, the head in the hat translation of the fake golden plates, and that he had about 40 wives, including teenage girls. The two youngest were 14, and a number of his wives were married to other men at the same time they were married to him, and that he was like a con artist, a convicted criminal, a PDF file. He was in jail because he burned down a printing press that was on the eve of printing a damning expose about his like sexual misconduct, and he died in a gun battle in which he fired a number of shots. He was not a martyr, and like they actually, I've seen so many like creepy stories from ex-Mormons, including one from a nursery teacher when she says in December, "Oh, there's an important birthday coming up. Can you tell me what it is?" And of course, like 3 and 4 year olds, and like anyone would say, you don't even have to be Christian. Like Jesus's birthday is coming up. Oh, he's important too. But I was talking about someone even more important, our precious holy founder, Joe Smith. Like if that's not a cult, like I don't know what is. And so anyway, this is going to, I've flipped through it so far, and it promises to be, it looks really good, very like compelling writing, and she includes documents like some of his, like the Kinderhook plates and the Book of Abraham, which turned out to be like a work of forgery, like an ancient Egyptian funerary document, not like revealed stuff from Native Americans who had white skin and were descended from like Jews who somehow came to North America and left behind absolutely no archaeological or genetic evidence of ever being here. But anyway, this book looks like it's going to be a really, really good read. Like, and maybe I should do some whole other videos about why I just have a very low opinion of like Mormonism, Joe Smith. It's just like a really weird, creepy, disturbing history and theology. But anyway, let's just get to, oh, this is another one. Actually, I thought this was going to be a different book. Apparently there are 2 books called In Sacred Loneliness. This is a much longer, obviously more academic book. The one thought I was requesting was the one which is a biography of Joe Smith's 40 so wives. These are actually like documents. I'm sorry if I'm saying actually too many times. I'm trying to watch my weasel words. Like obviously was one I caught myself saying too many times in the Inkvent videos recently. So these are letters and diary entries and such written by Joe Smith's many wives, including the 14-year-olds and the ones who were married to other women. It seems what I've skimmed through so far, a lot of them, they still regard him as like a holy sacred prophet and martyr. Like they didn't care or didn't know about the fact that he was like a treasure digger, a con man, like a sex fiend, a nonce, a PDF file. He was in jail for a damn good reason. He died in a gun battle. He wasn't an innocent holy sacred martyr who was like lynched or something like that. But the In Sacred Loneliness biography like won awards, and so this is just basically an extension of that. So that might be interesting what I've been looking through so far, and it's a good window into the 19th century, and maybe help me to understand why these women and girls, like, why would they go along with marrying someone who was already legally married to one woman and had like dozens and dozens of other wives on the side, and why they would still like stick by his like cult of personality and like strange religion he founded even after he passed on. Like if you've seen my Beatrice Sparks videos, I do not have like any time or patience for Mormon propaganda. This was a new book, again, medical history, The Black Angels, the untold story of the nurses who helped cure tuberculosis. of diseases and medical history, and it's set in New York City. I also love reading about New York City of yore, when normal people could still afford to live there. New York City, 1929. A sanitarium, a deadly disease, and a dire nursing shortage. In the pre-antibiotic days, when tuberculosis stirred people's darkest fears, killing 1 in 7, white nurses at Seaview, New York's largest municipal hospital, began quitting en masse. Desperate to avert a public health crisis, city officials summoned black Southern nurses, luring them with promises of good pay, a career, and an escape from the strictures of Jim Crow. But after arriving, they found themselves on an isolated hilltop in the remote borough of Staten Island, yet again confronting racism and consigned to a woefully understaffed sanitarium, dubbed the Pest House, where it was said that no one left alive. Spanning the Great Depression and moving through World War II and beyond, this remarkable true story follows the intrepid young women, known by their patients as the Black Angels. For 20 years, they risked their lives, working under appalling conditions, while caring for New York's poorest residents, who languished in wards waiting to die, or became guinea pigs for experimental surgeries and often deadly drugs. But despite their major role in desegregating the New York City hospital system, and their vital work in helping to find the cure for tuberculosis at Seaview, these nurses were completely erased from history. The Black Angels recovers the voices of these extraordinary women and puts them at the center of this riveting story, celebrating their legacy and spirit of survival. So I'm going to look forward to starting to read that one. And here is another one. That noise is like just tossing the books on the floor. Like, I want to do this video in one take, so I don't want to like edit out, like ducking to the side and then ducking back to like put them more neatly. This was also on display, and I haven't seen the American Experience on PBS episode of this yet. Hopefully it'll come back into the TV library. Unexampled Courage, The Blinding of Sergeant Isaac Woodard, and the Awakening of President Harry S. Truman and Judge J. Waties, Waring or Waring, his oh, there's my library card slipping out there. This veteran of World War II, like after he came home, he was lynched by a bunch of racists. Just so really sad what happened to him. A lot of people think, oh, racism really wasn't a big thing anymore. We learned our lesson, and oh, everyone was equal in suburbia. They were equal to assimilate. No, it wasn't. It took a long time to like, it never fully went away, of course, but to just like more like completely subsume racism and anti-Semitism. Like, these attitudes had been ingrained in people for like decades, centuries. They didn't just magically go away after World War II, and the GI Bill, unfortunately, did not extend its benefits to African Americans. Here is the synopsis. Sergeant Isaac Woodard, a battlefield-decorated African American soldier, climbed aboard a Greyhound bus on February 12, 1946, in Augusta, Georgia, on his last leg home. After 3 years of military service, things suddenly went awry when a brief, heated exchange with the bus driver resulted in Woodard's removal from the bus and his arrest in the small town of Batesburg, South Carolina. Shortly after, the Batesburg police chief, Linwood Shule, took Woodard into custody. He beat the soldier with his blackjack, blinding him. Details of Woodard's tragic encounter soon reached President Harry S. Truman. Outraged by the treatment of a uniformed American soldier, Truman wrote to his attorney general and made it clear that there was a need for an effective federal response. Within days, criminal civil rights charges were brought against Shule in the federal district court in South Carolina, and Truman began establishing the first presidential committee on civil rights. Truman's committee recommended groundbreaking reforms, including ending segregation in the armed forces. On July 26, 1948, Truman, over vigorous opposition, issued Executive Order 9981, integrating the American military and marking the beginning of the end of Jim Crow. Shule was tried before United States District Court J. Waties Waring, a Charleston patrician whose father was a Confederate veteran. An all-white jury quickly acquitted Shule, surprise, surprise, but Judge Waring was conscience-stricken by the failure of the justice system to hold the obviously culpable police chief accountable. Waring soon began issuing landmark civil rights decisions that rocked his native state and challenged the foundations of racial segregation and of black disenfranchisement. His courageous dissent in a 1951 school desegregation case in which he declared segregation per se unconstitutional, became the model for the Supreme Court's unanimous decision in Brown versus Board of Education 3 years later. Richard Gergel's Unexampled Courage details the long overlooked story of the blinding of Sergeant Woodard and its transformative effect on President Truman, Judge Waring, and ultimately America's civil rights history. This is a story that deserves to be told, with all its pathos, its brutality, and its redemption of the American system of justice. And there's just some pictures of the event and people on it. I think this is called the Flyleaf. If not, like, correct me in the comments. And this is, I love macabre stuff, death, Dia de los Muertos, skulls. On my bucket list is getting a skull to like put on a desk as a paperweight, or a real skeleton for something fun. I love Halloween and spooky season horror movies, just pretty much like, everything about it. And this is, I've already started reading through this, like, death rituals throughout the world, and different cultures. Like, some people do things that would be like considered like, why would you do that? That's horrifying, or that's making light of death, or that's just weird. Why are you throwing a party instead of like, sobbing and being catatonic with grief? Or why are you cutting off your finger, part of your finger, to mourn the dead, or like bringing rocks to the grave instead of like flowers, or like little toys for a child or something like that. I've done a lot of volunteer work for Find a Grave, uploading like several thousand photographs, and uploading the metadata, like biographies and such like that. And of course my own family, but I haven't done that in a while because I no longer live within walking distance of any cemeteries, unfortunately. But I would love to get back to that someday. Death customs, funerary customs. This is just a really, really fun, interesting looking book, and we all benefit when we become good world citizens. We know about cultures beyond our own, backyard, and it's just going to be really, really like fun and cool to do it. I love like cemeteries and graveyards. Like I used to spend like the whole afternoon back when I lived nearby cemeteries. Like, why should we fear death? Like, it's going to happen to all of us eventually, unless we find a cure for something. But I do believe in reincarnation and the transmigration of the soul, and eventually reaching nirvana and stepping off the wheel of samsara. Yeah, I know, like, I mix and match a lot of beliefs that do not conflict with Judaism, as I've said multiple times in other videos. The religions I feel closest to after my own are Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism, and Jainism. And like, reincarnation is in pretty much all world religions, including Judaism, although it's more like mystical and not as like well known as it is in like Buddhism and Hinduism. But anyway, turtles. I love turtles. I would love to have some pet turtles and tortoises someday. They're my number 2 spirit animal after the spider. I'm not wearing it right now, but I do have a little white gold turtle like end for like my piercings. You don't really call them like earrings, because an end you can like put into any piercing in your body. I could wear it in my nostrils if I wanted to, or like when I get some other piercings, I would like my infiltrum pierced eventually, and like high nostrils. That's still in my bucket list, and like several more ear piercings. But anyway, I love turtles. That makes it. I love wearing that little turtle end, but it just doesn't go with the current aesthetic setup I have chosen in my ears. They're such beautiful animals, and they're my number 2 spirit animal, because I really like relate with their their symbolism, what they represent. Or there's like a bookmark from the library. And they live so long. They live for several centuries. They're like parrots and goldfish. They frequently outlive their owners, and they're left in wills to like friends and relatives who can take care of them afterwards. And like little turtles, and the baby turtles are so cute, and they have so many like fun colors in them. They represent perseverance, like rising above your challenges, like slow and steady wins the race. And you might not expect turtles to be like intelligent. Oh, they're just big or small dumb animals in a little shell, and they just like have the feet and the arms and the head, and they can like go in and out of the shell. Like, that's kind of weird, and because people don't understand, people like kind of fear make fun of what they don't understand, just like spiders. Oh, they have 8 legs and they creepy crawlies. They must be killed on sight, instead of, oh, let's admire them. Oh, what a beautiful spider, cute little baby spiders. Why would I spray poison at them and murder them after they were just born? I love turtles. And my other top 5 spirit animals after the spider and the turtle, the frog and the lizard. I think I would put maybe like the horse or the cat in there somewhere too. And like turtles are like, they live in so many different places. I can't wait to someday have a pet turtle or tortoise of my own. And this is the last one on the shelf in the pile. This was also on display in the medical thing. This Way Madness Lies, about the history of loony bins. When I still lived in Albany, New York, they had they have a lot of temporary exhibits. This was one, I believe I took some photos of it, in the New York State Museum, about the history of a local insane asylum that had since closed its doors, and it had like clothing and artwork and such made by the inmates, general information about the history, about their cemetery, when and why it closed down. A lot of people, unfortunately, were sent there not because they were like legitimately mentally ill. It was just, oh, we have to get rid of this nutty woman who is advocating for women's rights and reading novels. Or this guy, oh, he would probably be considered like autistic in the modern era, her have some other kind of like mental health challenge, but he just seems nutty in the world of like the 19th century. So off to the loony bin you go. And there was this one short silent film from 1930 about, it clearly seemed like this woman had postpartum depression, but her husband sent her off to the nut house, and I think she had like, electroshock like therapy or whatever other things they were considered like cutting edge in 1930, because her alleged like mental illness was not being like 100% like mothering from the jump, actually needing to take some time to adjust to her new role, not immediately being all lovey-dovey with her precious babykins. Like in 1930, many people did not understand that postpartum depression, like that it exists at all. They just thought, oh, that's something unnatural and weird. Like, you're not immediately being mommykins, precious mommykins, like in a Beatrice Sparks book, from the moment the doctor or midwife puts the baby in your arms. But anyway, this is an illustrated history by Mike J. This looks like a straight jacket, unfortunately, and these are like some of them inmates. This is, it can be difficult to read about these things. People were actually torturing other human beings by putting them in insane asylums just because they had like mental illnesses, or even because they're just going against the crowd. And that must be like, you must be crazy if you're not obediently like just blending in and conforming with like the cookie cutter crowd, or doing things like that. But it is important to like learn about this chapter in history. And maybe we went a little bit too far by like Reagan emptying all the nut houses and putting people out onto the streets. Like, some people, unfortunately, they do legitimately need to be cared for in an institution. Like, maybe obviously, of course, not as like strictly and like abusively as, God forbid, they used to be even into the later 20th century, but there should be like a halfway between like, oh, just mainstream them all, force them into homelessness, or like tie them up to the wall and have them be used as like daily entertainment at bedlam, and like abuse and beat them and like, deprive them of like good food and things like that. Oh, Edgar Allan Poe and an advertisement. That's cool. And of course, mental health awareness is very important. I had a video about that for, Mental Health May, talking about my own like history and challenges with mental health. So this is going to be an important read to look through, and just like, maps of the stuff. So thank you guys very much for watching. Hopefully nobody was like losing interest in my channel because I was like putting the books and authors, the books and writing content to the wayside while I've been focusing on Inkvent these past couple of weeks. But hopefully I will have time to make a few more bookish and writing videos before the end of December. So see you guys again soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.